Ontario politics right now is that province's progressive conservative leader has dropped a high-profile candidate ahead of June's provincial election. Now, Doug Ford says he changed his mind about Tanya Granic because of past statements which he says, quote, do not reflect the diverse views of the party. Now, will that move isolate some potential voters in the upcoming provincial election? There's a lot to unpack here, and for that, we have invited Michael Coren to join us, a columnist and a broadcaster. He hosted the Michael Coren Show on Crossroads Television for 12 years. He's also written about Granic recently. Thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Remind me of old times, that old show, golly.
Well, it was a good show to watch, I have to say. So that said, here we have Doug Ford dropping Tanya Granic, as we say, that announcement made late yesterday. Is there a political price that he will pay for dropping her?
It's a very good question. I don't know is the answer. Possibly in that riding. Those people who supported her are not going to vote Conservative now, but how many are there? They claim 10,000. They're using very militaristic terminology. A Campaign Life Coalition put out a release. We mobilize and they're trained and they're a few thousand of them, maybe 10,000. It could sway a riding or two. But obviously, the people in his campaign, I don't think it was Ford, by the way, I think it was his campaign staff, they thought about this and they thought the price could be too high. The Liberals obviously were going to release a lot of stuff about her.
And they did release a video that led up to this decision.
But none of it is that new. I mean, for goodness sake, we've known, I've been writing this, and I'm not the only one, for a long time. Her views are extremely conservative on issues of sexuality and abortion. The one video that's new is from a Croatian Catholic youth group where it was a very crass, vulgar term, but she said that sex ed and same-sex marriage, she used the word vomit. Well, that's appalling, but she's said things as bad, if not worse, in the past. So let's not pretend that Ford wasn't aware of this. He'd have to be very out of touch. During the first debate, for goodness sake, she spoke about anal sex in a television debate, completely out of context, sitting next to the man. So he was aware. He was aware,
a very well-known social conservative, yet she also supported. She was running for leader of the Ontario PC party after Patrick Brown essentially was forced to resign. She supports him by the end of that leadership. There must be some political calculus where he can overlook that type of loyalty to drop her as a candidate.
Possibly. Patrick Brown, of course, also courted the social conservative vote and won it, and that's how he became leader through Monty McNaughton. Now, Ford probably wouldn't have been leader. It was between two people, Elliott and Ford.
Christine Elliott.
Christine Elliott. There was no way social conservatives could ever support Caroline Mulrooney. In fact, they've been very unpleasant about her. They went to Ford, and it wasn't a huge vote, but it was enough, and they think more than 80% of Tanya Granic's vote went to him. This also happened, by the way, with Andrew Scheer. Andrew Scheer was put over the top by the support of Pierre Lemieux's people and Brad Trost. And in this case, it was sufficient. And suddenly there was Tanya Granic, who had been a fairly anonymous character, really, outside of social conservatism, standing next to the next Premier of Ontario over and over again. And I get the strong feeling that Doug Ford was very happy with that until people said to him, probably more experienced people, there's a lot of baggage here and this could backfire.
A lot of baggages could backfire. But I have to say, I was looking at Twitter last night, and the interaction was very vitriolic against Doug Ford for making this decision. In fact, many people basically said that Doug Ford fell for a Liberal trap. The Liberals released this video. Ford drops Granic despite the fact that the social conservatives went to him because of her. And they say that he fell for a Liberal trap. What do you make of that?
Well, I'm not going to gauge my perception of Canadian politics by Twitter. A small number of people can seem very influential when they're not. And I saw those too. And certainly a lot of people from the social conservative movement were writing and Ford has gone too far, I'll never vote for him. Maybe they won't vote for him, but it's not the couple of thousand people who write on Twitter they're looking to. It's the hundreds of thousands of people who will vote. They don't want Kathleen Wynne. It's rather unfair to Kathleen Wynne, but the Liberals are not popular. They probably want to vote for another party, probably Conservative, but they're slightly uneasy at the social conservative fringe. We could say this is a very intelligent and wise move. Just before the writ is dropped and the election really begins, the Conservatives have said, we're not as extreme as you thought we were. Well, a lot of voters in the province of Ontario want a party that wasn't quite as extreme as they thought, that isn't Liberal. So maybe it was a very astute unscrupulous political move.
Well, the writ is not even dropped on this election. The election comes in June. The writ will be dropped Wednesday, but already tomorrow, ahead of that writ being dropped, there is a local television debate to which all three leaders in the province, major party leaders, have agreed to take part in. What will people be watching out for in these debates?
I'm not sure if this will come up, and it may, certainly, but I was chatting to a Conservative consultant a while ago, and he said if we could duct tape Doug Ford and send him off to Florida for a month, we'll win this election. Now, maybe that's a little bit unfair, but Ford, in some ways, is their most serious problem. He tends to be influenced by the last person he spoke to. He's not always responsible in what he says. The other two leaders, of course, are. So it is the Conservatives to lose this election. And as long as he's controlled, says relatively little, he's probably going to be OK. The person we should watch is the leader of the NDP, Andrea Horwath, who is very likeable. I'd be amazed if the Liberals pulled this one off. But could this be another Bob Rae? It's a long time ago now. But could it be the NDP, which doesn't expect to win? I mean, there's a lot of discontent in the party, but suddenly are faced with an electorate that is uncomfortable with the Liberals, but maybe won't vote Conservative. So how well Andrea Horwath does in this debate, I think, will be fascinating.
Okay, Michael, well, we'll be watching, and perhaps we get a chance to speak again in future.
My pleasure.
Thank you for this. And that's Michael Coren, a Toronto-based columnist and broadcaster.